Welcome back to I'm Not Selling You Anything, presented by Salesbricks. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, John Festejo, and our guest, Anthony Enrico. Anthony is the CEO and founder of LeanScale, whose sole purpose is to help VC-backed startups scale through CRM design, insightful go-to-market analytics, and strategic RevOps guidance. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here and looking forward to what we're talking about today.
Anthony, what is your superhero origin story? You looked at the world one way and then something happened and it's led you to where you are today.
I think it comes down to one moment, and I didn't even know what I was doing, but we had just raised a Series B at one of the VC-backed startups that I was working at. I was the head of RevOps, and we were talking about what we wanted to do in the next year. And I was just thinking about what is every single little cost aspect, everything that needs to happen or to hit that revenue target that we were talking about that we wanted to get to. And it was the moment I put together my very first growth model and growth plan. And it felt like a pianist, they explain when the keys in the piano start lighting up. That was the moment where I felt like the numbers and business just started lighting up for me, and I could see what it would take to grow any of these type of businesses. And my mind never worked the same since.
I like that origin story. It's almost like we have this raise and now I need to put my thoughts down on paper, and it sort of started coming together as a plan. And then you said, wow, I'm no longer looking at the world the same way again.
So our CEO, he was like most CEOs, he was pushing us super hard to hit goals to us that seemed astronomical. They seemed completely insane. And every plan that we would put would always fall short of what his expectations were. And he kept saying, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. Go back, go back. You guys are being weak. You guys are being too
Thinking
sheepish
small
about the goals. You're thinking small. And I left a meeting like that a little angry. And I was like, you know what? Forget this guy. I'm going to show him. You want those goals? You want those crazy, like triple revenue goals? I'm going to show you exactly what it's going to take. And you're going to have to open up your wallet or go raise some more cash to do it, because it's going to be expensive as hell. So I went back and I'm like, you're going to need this many sales reps. We're going to need this much in marketing. This is how much it's going to be. And then I went and brought it and I was like, there's no way we're hitting those goals. This is everything it's going to take to get there. And then he looked at me with a smile and was like, this is everything I was looking for the whole time.
That's pretty cool. And I think it's foreshadowing what the meat of our conversation is going to be a little bit later on. So thank you for giving us your superhero origin story. That, having done the research and spoken to you a couple times now, it makes a lot of sense. We're going to jump into our main talking points of the conversation between Anthony, John, and myself. Today, we will be talking about growth planning and growth modeling in B2B SaaS with two people who know so much about it that they've started companies around it. Anthony, you work with early stage VC-backed companies almost exclusively. If you could tell every early stage operator when the check clears, the most important thing, what would it be?
The most important thing, and this hit me right in the face, is you have even less time than you think to get to that next stage of growth. That's half the amount of time that you think, and you have to be running at hyperspeed to get to where you need to go.
It seems like you gave us a little bit of a hint at the beginning of the conversation. How do you get there?
I think it all starts from planning. So it's knowing where you need to go, where you want to go, and then reverse engineering from there. Knowing which direction you're going can help get you there quicker. You're going to start to align resource, investment, company culture, everybody rowing the same way towards a single goal. Starting with planning, but you got to plan quick. You don't have 3 months to do a plan and make sure it's bulletproof. You got to be getting a plan out the door in a matter of weeks, at least a version of it, and then starting to lay the groundwork of how you're going to operate towards that immediately. So I don't think a lot of people realize that you have 12 to 18 months to get to that next stage of growth, whether it's another fundraising round or a strategic exit, before your business starts to become a little bit less desirable, less interesting to invest in. So you don't have 3-6 months to put together a perfect bulletproof plan and take your time on it and craft it. You need a plan in weeks, and you need to start operating and executing immediately, so you have enough time to give yourself that chance. A lot of early stage companies, you don't have the luxury of having a ton of funding up front to get really experienced people who may have gone through it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what I was doing the first time I did it. I did it out of anger just to prove my CEO wrong, which then I ended up proving him right. And then it changed the whole course of my career. But I didn't know what I was doing. And without that pressure, I may not have done that. So I think it takes working with someone who has gone through the process a few times, but it takes a couple runs and a successful one. So if you haven't been in a company that's actually gone through those next stages, has seen the finish line through an exit, it's really, really tough to know what good looks like. And I'm super fortunate. I got to experience that really early in my career. I could have, honestly, I did good work and I helped, but also a lot of fortune to just step into a company that was growing and doing really well. But you could spend a lot of time working in duds where you never see it done well. So back to your question, what should you do? If you have people on your team, that's awesome. But I also think it helps to get another look. Like us at LeanScale, we've done around 40 engagements or so far. So we've seen it at 40 different companies, and we've learned a ton just getting that exposure. So I think if you want to move at Hyperspeed, you got to bring somebody in who's done it, so you don't waste any time making typical mistakes.
I think working with a company like LeanScale and just having somebody who's seen it a dozen times, and especially in the market that we're in, you get the automatic insights like, hey, we've assumed that it's going to take 3 months for somebody to hit their first booking, or we believe that it takes 6 months for somebody to be fully productive, hitting 100% of their monthly or quarterly target. But when you have an advisor that does this for 40 other SaaS companies, they become a trusted data point like, hey, you assume this, but in reality, it's much harder to sell today. And if we factor that in, dramatically changes the predictions that you have on like, when's the absolute drop date that you're going to run out of money? When do you think you need to fundraise? How much faster do you have to run? So a lot of those things are very critical in designing a plan, and just being realistic with what other folks in the market are seeing. It just adds a lot more accuracy and alignment on what to expect and how to build your business.
That's a really good point. A plan that would have been designed really well in 2021
Yep.
would be a complete dumpster fire if you tried to follow that in 2024, because everything's different. Money was flowing around like completely freely, so you didn't have to worry about your level of efficiency as much. You could really focus on growth. So a very, very well-built plan for a couple of years ago would be terrible today. And if you're bringing in somebody, let's say they had a really successful run at a company a couple of years ago, would be typical. And then they come into your company. If they're bringing that old stale playbook to yours, it's not going to be relevant anymore. And they may not have had a chance to see a planning process in this environment.
I think the benefit and the beauty about starting a company is you accidentally meet a lot of founders. And a lot of founders give you very basic, but also drill downs into what's working and what's not working. So if LeanScale never existed or Anthony never existed, you will have some pockets of information that will help inform you in hiring and what to expect when you build out a plan. But it's pockets of information that you still need to internalize, digest, think about, and then use that as a way to build a plan that is close to the pin. But with someone like LeanScale, they are that knowledge base that when you give them the keys to your business and say, hey, go build me a plan and help me come up with a strategy around executing it, like it's in their DNA. So you move quicker. There's a little bit more insights that leads to the actual manifestation of the plan. And then also, like, I think there's maintenance that needs to happen on the plan on a monthly basis, right? You hit your top of funnel number, but you didn't hit your bookings number. Because of those outcomes, that should change your plan on a monthly basis, and partnering with somebody that can help you maintain that plan, because it has to be maintained. It's not something that you set in stone in 1 year and you revisit it in 12 months. There's a lot of maintenance. It's a living and breathing thing. That's where I think partnership with people who do this all day long is critical.
I can tell you with 100% accuracy, the actual performance of the company will not follow the plan exactly. The assumption you put in for conversion rate, the assumption you put in for ramp time, for cycle, for the cost for an opportunity, it's going to be different. And I think the teams that can really make their way through these scaling phases and make their way through these stages of growth, they're not just putting something on standby and just letting it run. They're constantly iterating. And as soon as they have new data, they adjust the plan. Okay, that channel's not working as well as we thought it would. Let's shift our marketing budget over here. Okay, the ramp time for sellers is taking way longer than we thought. Maybe we can support the current ones that we have with something else to help them scale up quicker. You got to stay agile and you got to iterate as you go. And you're also doing things that your company has never done before. So you're going to have to keep making assumptions and making judgments and giving it your best shot, and then making adjustments when you get new access to data. I think of RevOps, I think of business in general as a good metaphor to health and fitness. And two things. One, especially in the context of goal setting, once you hit a fitness goal, it doesn't mean you can stop working out or just eat whatever the hell you want. That would be completely naive. When you hit that goal, in order to maintain where you are, you have to keep doing what you have been doing. And then usually when you hit that goal, your goals are now going to change, which means you're going to have to change what your diet and your fitness plan is in order to hit those new goals. And I also have very different goals than maybe when I was younger. Like when I was younger, maybe I was trying to put on a lot of muscle and lift as much as I could. Now my health and fitness goals are building for longevity. Like, can I touch my toes and stay flexible and, pick up my kids without throwing out my back? Like, those are the type of goals that you may get into as you age and you're in a different position in life. So just like with business, as soon as you hit a goal, you're going to have a new one, or it's going to change. And then there's other things that may happen, like the market may change, access to capital may change. And every time you do that, you have to completely redefine how your growth infrastructure is designed in order to hit those new goals.
Spot on, Anthony, number one. Number two is with the evolution of your goals, like the processes and the tools that you adopt throughout the journey also has to change. I think, after you're done with the 25-pound dumbbell, like you're going to have to go and, do the 50-pound or 30-pound or whatever that, incremental weight is, because you want to get stronger. A lot of times when you think about planning, you kind of fail to realize when you grow, you also have to invest in processes and net new roles that come into the business and tools that you're going to outgrow. And I think a lot of times people don't realize, like, if you actually have a path and a plan to growth, that needs to evolve as well, like that cost line item in the cost of goods or the equipment and the tooling that you rely on.
Well, and I think there's a couple cognitive biases that people don't realize they have when they're working through these stages of growth. One is a status quo bias. So there's always a reluctance to change. And even for people who, startup people who say, I'm iterative, I'm used to change, oftentimes they're yearning for a time where they won't have to change. They're thinking, I know I have to change a little bit right now, but as soon as I get here, I'm not going to have to change anymore. Let's rush there. And it's going to be this paradise where the revenue operation just runs on its own and it's beautiful and it's perfect. I have access to all the data I ever need. I never need to change anything. It's a complete fallacy. And I think another cognitive bias that really poisons people's minds when it comes to setting up their operation is completion bias. People love nothing more than to check an item off the box. So if they say our growth architecture is built, it is done, let's check that box off. That's almost as ridiculous as saying my health and fitness is done. I've completed it. Nothing else to do.
So the analogy to Salesbricks is like, we thought long and hard around our company name and kind of a way for our company name to really market itself to early stage companies. And I think Bricks is and will be a really good symbolism of like building blocks. And as you build, you're going to need more and more of it. One of the things I learned in my time working for a bunch of A16Z backed companies is a lot of founders love to build for a set goal, right? I want to just have this infrastructure in place. Similar to what Anthony said, check off the box. I need billing.
Yeah.
Check. I need to generate quotes. Check. But what they don't plan for is like, because of the product and success in the product and sales, like they're going to grow like crazy in the RevOps space. So they're going to hire a sales team. Not every sales team is going to log into, for example, Stripe and create orders and transactions that way. That's what founders built for, is like, I adopted a billing engine and that's it. I'm forever going to use that for life. But with Salesbricks, like we have small incremental feature functions that allow you to grow in the needs that you have for your revenue infrastructure. So, on day one, you just need to get a contract out. Check. We have that. But you're going to need to hire a bunch of salespeople who are going to deal shape and get beat up by prospects and customers around redlining and deal structuring within our product. We have that. And then as you start to grow and you start to renew and need to increase NDR for your business so you can go get that fundraise, we make that super easy for sellers to say, hey, rather than me spending 3 hours in a spreadsheet, checking math, why can't I just click a button and say, hey, let's prorate this upsell or recast this contract so I can spend the rest of that time savings doing pipeline gen, because that's their number one job. We've built that into the product. And so a lot of understanding how I had to rip and replace a lot of these tools and processes from the founders that hire me. Those are the things that we've thought about in Salesbricks, and we've built building blocks into your business so that you can grow with Salesbricks. And so, and it's not just about Salesbricks. There's a lot of tools out there that are great for founder-led businesses, but when the founders are very, very successful and they have to spend $5-10 million in their go-to-market team, they have to fire their tools and their processes and evolve.
To think that you would never change your pricing, packaging, and what products you're offering is insane. So if you're not on a platform that is flexible enough like Salesbricks to keep up with the rate of change of your business and make it easy for you to do that, you're going to run into a lot of problems. And then that's why we deal with a lot of CRM migration type of work. Normally when people think of RevOps, they think like, who's managing Salesforce? And we know it's so much more, but that's usually like the pain that we have to solve at the beginning. And there's a reason why people end up moving into Salesforce, because it's flexible enough to grow with your business, where other CRMs are great. They're amazing and built for a certain time period, but it gets to a point where the complexity gets too much. And that's where I think what you built with Salesbricks is just unbelievably impressive with what it can handle and how it can mold to fit your business and how quick and easy it is to do it. I mean, they spun up ours in a day. So I've never seen, it's not just a CPQ, but I've never seen like a CPQ or pricing interface that's set up in 24 hours before. And that's the type of speed you need, especially now with companies moving as fast as they're moving and people who are really, really focused on getting their businesses to those stages quickly. If you're going to compete, you have to be on the right infrastructure that helps you be flexible and iterative.
So this reminds me about my experience working with one of my CROs back in 2016. And when I got hired, he basically told me, you need to allocate 15% of your time to listening to SDRs. First, I was like, why would I spend 15% of my time entertaining conversations with sellers when I'm supporting a 100-person go-to-market team? And he said, that's the only way you're going to learn what's new in the market and what good looks like. And because companies are funded with this idea that they're going to solve and improve people's lives or innovate on something that existed, yesterday, but make it so much more better and more productive, you have to listen to these folks who are giving you like the answers to the test of what the future of work would look like. And so you need to spend 15% of your time shopping for the company around tools that will make the company more productive. So doing what 100 man hours would take like 3 hours with this solution. Like he wants me to spend time looking at that. And that was the first time I've ever heard an executive tell me that. And what actually reminded me is that everybody actually should be listening to SDRs and learning about what tools that are new and innovative in the market. Because, we are in this world where we have Moore's law, like things get faster, 2x faster at a very short period of time. And if we're not listening to the market and educating ourselves on that, then we're doing a huge disservice in the companies that hire us, that pay us to, take the company to the next level. And so, as a founder, I have a bag, I sell the product, and I am kind of like an SDR full time. And it just, puts a lot of respect to the sales organization. And in a way, I don't think of people as sellers. I think of them as educators. And we need to change that mindset as founders. It's like, we need to understand what's going on in the market. What are things that are innovative so that we can bring those tools and processes into our business? That's the only way we're going to grow. Yeah, I think Anthony and I, we're both RevOps professionals. And honestly, we've accidentally learned all the secrets of the company, how people do things well, how people don't do things well, and how that is very impactful for the trajectory of the business. So we all learned a lot of deep, dark secrets in our line of work.
I think being in RevOps is where future founders hang out because you get to see the entire business. So I don't know if we were like RevOps people or we just couldn't stay siloed in one area of the company and we really had to see what's going on everywhere. I don't think I knew what I was doing in 2016, but I wish Salesbricks would have existed then because I know we would have loved using it at Emailage, which is a company I was at then.
I just think it's so interesting since you both have this background in the RevOps close to the money, how much better you are at telling it straight. Does that make you a better operator today?
Yeah, the experience I've had with Leanscale has 10x my ability to be an operator because just the amount of exposure. And we're also in a really unique place where we're not emotional. It doesn't matter to us. We're not politically looking for a plan to be one way or another. I'm not trying to get a promotion by coming off with a showy plan, or I'm not trying to save my job by keeping the plan conservative. It's completely objective. There's no emotion involved in it at all. And if you want to grow from here to there, this is how much it will cost to get there. And here are all of the assumptions. And if you have a problem with one of the assumptions, let's talk about that and change it if we need to. But there's nothing other than numbers that get you from one stage to the next. So for us, I think it helps us operate because we can go through that process really quickly. And even internally for our own business, LeanScale for LeanScale, when we're doing our own plans, it's pretty good to have that experience and that muscle built on the team because we're not arguing about anything. It's okay. What are the numbers? How many people do we need? How many opportunities are we going to drive in order to get to that stage of growth? What channels are going to work well? What do we believe? What's the assumption? What's our sensitivity on that assumption? That's how we communicate internally to get to our next stage. So I think just going through reps like anything, you build a muscle memory of planning, and then it just makes it easier and faster to do.
John, would you agree it's kind of honed you into being not emotional about it? It has to be objective in building Salesbricks, in knowing what it takes to get to that next phase?
Unfortunately, everything I do in the operating model is emotional. It's something that just comes with the role that I play as a founder. I want to push the company and the team really hard, but I also want to make myself look good in front of investors. In reality, I think you need a third party and a third pair of eyes to help you set that because they're going to tell it like it is. But I think ultimately what having an operating model plan and a growth plan does it is a forcing function. The whole exercise of it is a forcing function to rally the company into making these specific investments, moving fast at this particular deadline. It kind of corrals everybody into one page. And even if the plan is not right or maybe somewhat directionally right, it rallies everybody to do the right thing. So having that exercise is required in any early stage company.
Anthony, if you could think of anyone that would enjoy having a conversation, who do you think we should interview next?
So if you can get this guy on your podcast, I've been trying to get him on mine for a little bit, then major kudos to you. But
Okay.
I'm going to go back to that time when I put together that first plan. I call him the godfather of RevOps because he was doing RevOps before it was called RevOps. It was just called money. It was just called building companies. But I got introduced to this guy after we raised our Series B at Emailage. He's from Radian Capital. He's a growth growth partner. His name is Mike Zeke. And Mike Zeke taught me everything I know about growth planning, growth modeling, RevOps. He laid the foundation after we raised that round to help Emailage go from raising that round to a $500 million exit. And a lot of the stuff that him and I talked about back then, we're still using today. DZIK.
DZIK. All right, Mike Zeke, thank you so much for suggesting that one. And then the final question we ask every single guest that joins us on I'm Not Selling You Anything. It's called the Billboard Question. Anthony, if you could have a billboard with anything on it, everyone would drive by it and see it every single day, what would it be and why?
I think it'd be 3 words: vertical. Maybe my face off to the left, words off to the right. Husband, father, operator.
Husband, father, operator. It tells you everything you need to know about our new friend, Anthony Enrico, CEO, founder over at LeanScale. Thank you so much, Anthony, for having joined us on I'm Not Selling You Anything. With me and my co-host, John Festejo, had a nice little RevOps chat here about growth planning, and hopefully the folks that listened to it got something cool out of it. Thank you to you both.